Have you ever felt a kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep fixes? Like your soul is tired, not your body. You get what you thought you wanted, the job, the relationship, the life you planned, but the satisfaction never lasts. And you wonder, why do I always feel like something's missing, even when everything looks right? You've done everything right, but the peace you were promised never arrives. What if the real reason isn't burnout, but something far more disturbing? What if your entire life has been driven by a force that doesn't want you to be happy? It just wants you to keep wanting. Like a treadmill that speeds up every time you think you've arrived. By the end of this video, you'll understand why satisfaction always slips through your fingers seconds after you grasp it. Why the goals that obsessed you last year now feel meaningless. And most importantly, how to break free from the invisible war being waged inside your own consciousness. This isn't a metaphor, this is the hidden architecture of your suffering. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer identified it as the will, a blind, insatiable force that uses your consciousness as its puppet. And until you recognize how it's manipulating you, you'll remain trapped in its invisible cage. Remember the last time you achieved something significant? That brief moment of satisfaction before the emptiness returned? That wasn't coincidental. That was the will revealing its true nature. Every desire you've ever chased was never meant to satisfy you. It was only meant to keep you wanting more. Think of the last goal that consumed you. How many hours did you spend visualizing it, planning for it, working toward it? And when you finally achieved it, what happened? A flash of joy, a moment of peace, then nothing. The emptiness returned, perhaps even deeper than before. Here's the disturbing truth most psychologists won't tell you. This isn't a flaw in your mindset. It's by design. Schopenhauer discovered something far more unsettling than mere dissatisfaction. He realized that a blind, mindless force, which he called the will, pulses through all existence, using your consciousness as its puppet. The will has no purpose except to want, no direction except forward, no goal except more. But I make my own choices, you tell yourself. I decide what I want. This is the first and most dangerous illusion. You believe you're a rational being who happens to have desires. But what if you're actually a bundle of desires that happen to develop reason? What if your so-called rational mind is just the will's clever way of justifying what it already wants? Look at your life honestly. How many of your desires have actually brought lasting fulfillment? 0. And that's not a coincidence. The will doesn't want you to be satisfied. Satisfaction would mean the end of wanting, the end of striving, the end of the will's control over you. So, it ensures that every achievement, every attainment, every satisfaction comes with a built-in expiration date. Hours, sometimes just minutes, before the emptiness returns. And then, here's where it gets truly diabolical. It convinces you that the problem was simply that you desired the wrong thing. That next time, with the next goal, the next relationship, the next achievement, satisfaction will finally last. It never will, but you'll keep chasing it anyway. This is the mechanism creating your exhaustion, not a lack of sleep, not too much work, but the endless futile chase orchestrated by a force that never intended to let you rest. But here's where it gets darker. Schopenhauer realized that human existence swings like a pendulum between two forms of suffering, the pain of unfulfilled desire and the boredom of fulfilled desire. Think about your own life right now. If you're not suffering from wanting something you don't have, you're likely suffering from the emptiness of having what you once wanted. This isn't your personal failure, it's the inescapable condition of existence. When you want something you don't have, a better job, a romantic partner, recognition, wealth, you experience the pain of lack. The stronger the desire, the more acute the suffering. You tell yourself, once I get this, I'll finally be content. But what happens when you finally get what you want? For a brief moment, sometimes literally seconds, there's pleasure, a release, a feeling of at last. But pleasure isn't a positive state. It's merely the temporary absence of wanting, like scratching an itch. The relief feels good only because the irritation was bad. And then what? The pendulum swings to the other extreme, boredom. That shiny new purchase sitting unused in the corner, that relationship that now feels routine, that achievement on your resume that no longer brings you pride. The boredom that follows fulfillment is as painful as the wanting that preceded it. How many times have you achieved something you wanted desperately, only to feel nothing but emptiness days later? How often have you thought, once I have X, I'll be happy, only to get X and discover that nothing fundamental has changed? It's just the hedonic treadmill, modern psychologists say. You adapt to positive changes. But Schopenhauer saw deeper. It's not just that you adapt, it's that desire itself is designed to be insatiable. The will uses desire to perpetuate itself, not to bring you peace. And when the boredom becomes unbearable, the will creates a new desire, and the pendulum swings back to pain. The cycle continues endlessly. This isn't just a personal problem, it's built into the structure of consciousness itself. But the pain doesn't stop there, because in the modern world, the will has found its perfect amplifier. Here's what no one wants to admit. Contemporary society isn't designed to satisfy your desires. It's engineered to multiply them. The entire system is built to intensify the very force that's draining your soul. Every scrolling feed you've ever lost hours to. Every advertisement that made you feel incomplete. Every status update that triggered comparison. They're all exploiting the will's mechanism, creating artificial desires faster than you could ever fulfill the natural ones. Ask yourself, how did you feel the last time you scrolled through social media? Did it leave you content with your life or subtly lacking? That's not an accident, it's a business model. The culture of productivity tells you that rest is laziness, that stopping means falling behind, that slowing down equals failure. So you push yourself beyond natural limits, believing the exhaustion is temporary, that success will bring peace. It never does, because it was never designed to. Let me ask you directly, when was the last time you felt completely satisfied with what you had, where you were, who you were with, without any thought of what might come next or what might be better? Can't remember? That's because the modern world has weaponized the will against you. Your consumer culture constantly reminds you of what you lack, of how inadequate your life is without the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next experience. It doesn't fix the emptiness, it depends on it. Even your relationships have become contaminated. You seek in others what you believe will complete you, turning people into instruments of the will rather than connecting with them authentically. But this is just human nature, you might say. We've always wanted things. Yes, but never before has an entire global system been built to hijack and amplify those wants. Never before have we had algorithms designed specifically to keep the will inflamed and insatiable. The exhaustion you feel isn't weakness. It's the rational response to an unwinnable war being waged inside your own consciousness. But what makes this truly insidious isn't just the wanting. It's the poison that keeps you trapped in the cycle forever. The illusion of hope. Here's the most dangerous truth you'll hear today. Hope is not your friend. You've been taught that hope is a virtue, the light guiding you through darkness. Don't lose hope, they say. Stay positive, they insist. But Schopenhauer saw through this comforting lie. Hope isn't the antidote to suffering, it's the mechanism that perpetuates it. Hope whispers that happiness awaits just beyond the horizon. That fulfillment lies one achievement away. That peace comes after one more effort. This time will be different, you tell yourself, as you chase the next goal, the next relationship, the next milestone. But it never is. Think about it. How many times have you been disappointed when something you hoped for didn't bring the lasting satisfaction you expected? How many times has the voice of hope been wrong? Every single time. But here's the truly diabolical part. When hope fails, when the achievement doesn't bring lasting satisfaction, hope doesn't admit defeat. It simply shifts the target. It wasn't the right job, hope tells you. It wasn't the right relationship. It wasn't the right purchase. Next time will be different. But next time is never different. The pattern repeats because it's not circumstantial, it's structural. The will ensures that satisfaction always fades, regardless of what caused it. This is why the self-help industry thrives despite its abysmal success rate. It's not selling solutions, it's selling hope. The promise that with the right technique, the right mindset, the right goals, you'll finally break through to lasting fulfillment. Ask yourself honestly, how many self-help books have you read that genuinely transformed your life? How many motivational videos have left you permanently motivated? How many life-changing techniques have actually changed your life? The machine keeps running because hope keeps you engaged, keeps you believing that the solution to your emptiness lies just around the corner. But what if the real problem isn't how you pursue your desires? What if the problem is desire itself? What if hope is actually the poison keeping you trapped in an endless cycle of wanting, achieving, and returning to emptiness? This is where we reach the heart of Schopenhauer's brutal insight. The liberation you seek won't come from fulfilling your desires more efficiently. It will come from seeing through the illusion of desire altogether. If all of this sounds bleak, hold on, because here's where everything changes. Schopenhauer wasn't just identifying the problem, he found a way out. And it's so radically different from what modern culture teaches that it might just save your soul. His answer? The denial of the will. Now, this isn't about suppressing desires through willpower or discipline. That would just be another expression of the will, another form of wanting. True liberation comes from seeing through the illusion altogether, recognizing that the ceaseless wanting that drives your life is not your authentic self, but a blind force using your consciousness for its own perpetuation. Think of it like this. You've been a puppet your entire life, with the will pulling your strings. Liberation doesn't come from pulling different strings. It comes from seeing the strings for what they are, and in that seeing, becoming free of them. But how? In a world designed to keep you wanting, how do you break free? Schopenhauer identified 3 paths, and they're more accessible than you might think. First, there's aesthetic contemplation. When was the last time you were completely absorbed in something beautiful? A piece of music, a sunset, a work of art? Remember that feeling. Time slowed. Your usual anxieties and desires temporarily vanished. You weren't thinking about what you lacked or what you needed to do next. In those moments, something remarkable happened. The will fell silent. You stopped being a wanting, needing self and became pure perception. The boundaries between you and what you observe dissolved. These aren't just pleasant experiences. They're glimpses of freedom from the will's tyranny. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be completely absorbed in beauty without any practical purpose? When did you last listen to music without doing something else simultaneously? When did you last gaze at nature without taking a photo for social media? These moments of aesthetic contemplation aren't luxuries, they are liberation. The second path is inner silence. Through practices like meditation and mindfulness, you learn to observe the will's movements without identifying with them. You watch desires arise and pass away without being compelled to act on them. This creates space between your awareness and the wanting machine, allowing you to exist without being constantly driven by craving. Be honest with yourself. How much of your day is spent in pursuit of something? How much of your mental energy is consumed by planning, hoping, regretting, comparing? What would happen if, even for 5 minutes, you simply observed those impulses instead of following them? The third and most profound path is what Schopenhauer called asceticism. Not harsh self-denial, but the conscious choice to want less rather than more. This isn't about punishing yourself or rejecting pleasure. It's about stopping the endless pursuit of satisfaction through external means. It's choosing to step out of the game entirely rather than trying to win it. Look at your life right now. How many of your purchases in the past year have brought lasting satisfaction? How many of your achievements have permanently filled the void? What if, instead of trying to fill the emptiness, you simply stop treating it as a problem to be solved? But here's where it gets truly transformative. When you begin to apply these 3 practices, aesthetic contemplation, inner silence, and the limiting of desires, something profound happens. The spiritual exhaustion doesn't just improve, it transforms entirely. Not because you've fulfilled all your desires, but because you've started to free yourself from their tyranny. Not because you've finally gotten everything you wanted, but because you've recognized that wanting itself was the source of your depletion. This is the silent revolution that Schopenhauer proposed, not adding more, but needing less. The world screams, "You need to want more." Schopenhauer whispers, "No, you need to want less." Here's what no one tells you. The most successful people by society's standards are often the most spiritually depleted. Why? Because success in the conventional sense means becoming a perfect instrument of the will, wanting more, achieving more, but never finding peace. Think of the celebrities who seem to have everything yet struggle with addiction, depression, and emptiness. They're not failing at success. They're succeeding at a game that was rigged from the start. But what about you? What would your life look like if you stopped measuring it by what you've accumulated, achievements, possessions, experiences, and started measuring it by your freedom from wanting? What if, instead of asking, "What do I want next?" you asked, "What can I release my attachment to?" This isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's not about withdrawing from life or surrendering to apathy. It's about engaging with life from a place of freedom rather than compulsion. Creating because you love to create, not because you need validation. Connecting because you value authentic relationship, not because you're trying to fill a void. Working because the work itself has meaning, not because you're chasing status or security. The path Schopenhauer outlines isn't easy. It requires going against the current of an entire culture designed to amplify desire. It means resisting the constant messages that happiness lies in accumulation rather than liberation. But here's the truth that no productivity guru will tell you. The exhaustion you feel isn't asking you to try harder. It's asking you to stop trying altogether. And in that stopping lies the most profound freedom of all. Let me tell you something few will admit. The peace you're searching for exists, but it's not what you've been told it is. It's not the peace of acquisition, having enough money, enough status, enough validation. It's not the peace of achievement, reaching enough goals, winning enough recognition, gaining enough security. It's not even the peace of experience, visiting enough countries, having enough adventures, collecting enough memories. It's something far simpler and more profound, the peace of no longer being driven by the belief that you lack anything essential. When you begin to detach from the will's endless wanting, something remarkable happens. You don't become indifferent or apathetic as you might fear. Instead, you discover a different kind of engagement with life, one based on clarity rather than craving. You still act, create, and connect, but you do so from a place of conscious choice rather than compulsive wanting. Think about the people you most admire. Are they those who have accumulated the most, or those who seem least disturbed by what they don't have? Are they the ones frantically chasing the next thing, or those who seem at peace regardless of circumstances? The less you need life to be different than it is, the more fully you can participate in it. The less you try to escape the present through future achievements, the more present you become to what's already here. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's the clearest mirror Schopenhauer ever held up to the human soul. And now I ask you, what would change if you stopped believing that the next achievement will finally bring peace? What freedom might you discover if you stepped off the pendulum between pain and boredom, even for a moment? You're not broken. You're not failing. You're caught in a game designed to exhaust your spirit. And the way out isn't to play better. It's to stop playing altogether. This is Schopenhauer's gift to the spiritually exhausted. Not a path to getting everything you want, but the recognition that wanting itself is the source of your depletion. And in that recognition lies the possibility of a peace that doesn't depend on achieving anything at all. If this resonates with you, subscribe. This channel is for those who are done chasing and ready to wake up. Tell us in the comments, what's one desire you chased, only to find emptiness waiting on the other side? This conversation isn't just philosophical. It's about reclaiming your spiritual energy from a force that's been draining it your entire life. The exhaustion you feel isn't weakness, it's a signal, and it's been trying to wake you up from the dream of wanting altogether.